Hello, and once again, we are live with the Modern Mystery School UK and EU podcast and YouTube channel. And yes, joy is in the air. Al and I are matching practically to our tops. It's our birthday season, and we are here to talk about joy. Woohoo! Welcome back, Al, to the podcast. Now, tell us. I gave you this title to talk about joy and astrology, and tell us why joy is important from this perspective.
Oh my gosh. Well, so as many of you know, the modern mystery school comes from a Hermetic lineage. And, if you ever read the Hermetica, which are the writings and the teachings of Hermes Trismegistus, it's kind of interesting because there's a certain severity to it, and that it's very structured and very clear about what's good for us and what's not. But there's an incredible amount of joy and reverence that underneath the structures of what's good for us and what's not good for us, there's a lot of joy there. And that in following that, the Hermetic mind is actually incredibly joyful. The Hermetic mind is not bogged down by nor eaten by lower things. And joy gives us an appreciation for life, and the gifts that we have in being here, even when things are difficult, even when things are not to our liking, and so joy allows our experience here on earth to be a good one.
So true. And we have these teachings, especially the teachings in that are coming through from Sovereign Ipsissimus Dave, and we have the Hermetic Joy class and the Hermetic Life class, but just that, the joy that comes with achievement, with overcoming, with applying yourself, with actually reaching your goals, reaching your full potential and walking that path, it can't be described. It really is. People would from the outside might say, oh yeah, well, that looks like really hard work, but it's not, is it? It's that joyous, as you take step by step, it's like, oh, I can do this. Oh, wow. And I can do this. Oh, and I can do this. Oh, and I can help these people. Oh, and I can make a difference here. Oh my goodness, what I make a difference to the world and to the universe. And then it goes on and on and on. And it's just unravels. So yeah, I totally get that.
Who wants to come to the end of life and say it was okay? Nobody. That's horrible, right? And the thing about joy is that it takes us above the meh kind of life. I always tell people, when I'm an old lady, I want to be an old lady with all the best stories. I want my life to be unbelievable. I want them to think that I'm lying. And yet it's true. Because with joy, you can have the highest of achievements and also deal with the biggest challenges and face your biggest fears, and not that have become the end of your story or the whole story.
I definitely agree. I want to look back and go, wow, that was an adventure.
And a lot of people think that they want their life to just always go up, right? And then this happens and this happens and this happens. And it's kind of interesting because when that happens for people, they actually stop appreciating what they have, right? And I'm sorry, but a story's not a good story if it doesn't involve some challenge. If it doesn't indicate that there was growth possible, that you overcame obstacles. Every story that we are hooked on throughout the times and ages has been of somebody conquering massive challenges and coming out on the other side of it. And you can't do that, if you don't have joy and appreciation for your life.
I 100% agree. And you know, as you know me, I love the TV and, you know, film world. And it's true, every time you see a really good adventure story, or one that you're sitting on the edge of the seat, it's somebody that's overcoming a challenge or some kind of adversity. And it's like, oh, and they're just, you know, a regular person, and they become something that is just truly beyond logic, which is magical, you know.
And that is what acquiring the Hermetic mind actually does for us. And you know, this is why everything we do in our lineage, you know, you can experience regular everyday things. You know, your car's still going to break down. You know, people you love are still going to pass. There's still going to be loss. There's going to be all sorts of things, but it doesn't destroy your life. There's still appreciation, and there's still goodness, and there's still wonder and good fortune that are still possible.
It's amazing. And of course, then, you know, we have, you know, done many interviews together, you know, regarding astrology and how that assists, and how that, you know, helps us, rather than, it's not supposed to hinder us, it's not supposed to prevent us, it's supposed to aid us in that journey.
Yeah. And so it's kind of interesting because Hermes himself was always accompanied by two of the minor gods. And so in the Greek traditions, you know, you had the Olympians, you had the Titans, and then you had like the demigods, which were often forces personified into a god. And so the two gods, these two minor gods who accompanied Hermes, were Agatoctice and Agatodaimon, the good fortune and the good spirit. And so these two minor gods, and it's actually funny, they were married, they were husband and wife, but they accompanied Hermes in everything that he did. Right. And so it's kind of interesting because even this concept of joy is built and interwoven not only into Hermetics, but Agatoctice and Agatodaimon are also hidden within your astrology chart. And, and so this is where things get fun. And you know, we also have the geomantic symbols, and so you have good fortune, the good spirit, and the geomancy symbols as well. And so there's actually a lot of secret teachings on them. And yet nobody's ever kind of pinpointed, you know, that's exactly what it is. But joy is an incredibly important part of, you know, of our expression in life. And there is joy to be found. And so, you know, it's interesting because good fortune is actually the fifth house in your astrology chart, right? And so wherever or whatever is in the fifth house and wherever it is indicates where good fortune, like personal good fortune, can be found. You know, and so it is the joys of a personal life, romance, you know, abundance, love, children, creativity, travel. You know, these are all the things that the fifth house governs over. And so this is part of where we derive joy in our life. And so if you ever want to have a bit of a better understanding of where you might find things that keep that joy alive and nourish that joy, you can look there, right? But then we also have Agatodaimon, which was the good spirit. And it's kind of interesting because there is absolutely a joy that comes with the good spirit, but it is the joy that comes with service to others. And so that is found in the 11th house in your astrological chart. And that tells us about your relationship to the concept of service and how you actually get to be the vessel or a source of good fortune for others. And so the fifth house is how you are a recipient and how it can come to you. And the 11th house is how, when you act from that place of benevolence and in service to other people, how others can receive that joy and how you can bring it to them. And so it's really amazing how so many of our concepts in the mystery school get interwoven and tied together, in the teachings of Hermes. And so we have that experience of personal joy. We have the experience of joy through service, right? And of course, interwoven into that is that concept of service, taking it beyond yourself, and serving others.
I love that. I love that because, for lots of people, well, myself included, trying to find joy was really a difficult thing because I didn't know what it was. And I had a concept of something that it was outside, that something else was going to make it happen, like happiness. That's what, I was confusing the two.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people do that. And so this is very helpful because, having, a place to look for it, like in a chart, also having, access to things like Healers Academy, so that, because for me, I mean, doing a life activation brings me the most amount of joy. And everybody that I know is just completely clean joy. It's amazing. So that's service to others, and there's many different ways we can do service to others, obviously, on the path. And then, of course, you have the Hermetic teachings with all the keys that Sovereign brings in as well. So, for me, this idea, because we know that Shambhala people are going to be in joy, and so it's so important that we understand what joy is, and how to sustain that in our lives, how to bring it into our lives, because we do need to make that effort. It's not just going to come and sit there.
Yeah, and the thing that people don't understand, because like let's revisit that fifth house, the good fortune, right? Because people think that joy solely comes from there. But in astrology, nothing is isolated. And so the fifth and 11th houses are diametrically opposed to one another, indicating that they are a line of force. And you don't get to just cut that line in half and only be the recipient. That's not how the universe works. But in our society today, that's pretty much how people understand the concept of joy. They've cut it in half and turned good fortune into hedonism. And hedonism and the pursuit of pleasure is actually the shadow side of things, right? And so we can never cut something in half and expect the full results, right? And so this is why service is such an incredibly important piece of this. And I always ask people, if you had everything you wanted, and I mean everything, right? The ultimate fulfillment of all hedonism, what would be left? And there isn't a single person who hasn't told me that the only thing that would be left would be to share it with other people. And I'm talking about people who have pursued all sorts of pleasures, people who have come to grips with selfishness and that kind of thing. If every single person, if I said you had everything that you could possibly want, either immediately or almost immediately, what's left? And this is why we can never disconnect those two, because they are a line of force.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely 100% agree. And I think that's, so key. And I often, like, just as I said, using myself, when you don't know, you're in this, and nothing fulfills you, and you're trying everything. And I think a lot of people out there are doing that. Well, you can see on Instagram, Facebook, we can see what people are doing nowadays. It's not like back, 20 odd years where you couldn't really, know what people were doing to try and create this happy and joyous life. And that's so helpful to know that we have to look at service. I mean, we obviously know that in the lineage and the mystery school, but to people maybe that haven't found that yet, that might be a little shortcut, in kind of like, oh, that that's something I can try, rather than you know, a gazillion other things that don't work. So hopefully we've helped a few
Yeah.
get that.
Yeah, and if you're in a place where you're not experiencing joy, the one thing I really want to encourage you to look at, is you can be both a giver and receiver of benevolence. And if that's out of balance, that's going to affect the level of joy. And most likely you are a bigger receiver of benevolence than you are a giver. And so if you've been feeling that emptiness and a lack of joy and a lack of appreciation for your life, I'm going to tell you, give your heart to other people and watch what happens.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And we've obviously loved this topic because we've gone way over our normal time. It's flown by, and but yeah, please, get in touch with Al if you want a reading, to find out more. Contact her. She's really amazing. If you want to come to Healers Academy, then there's several.
Or the Hermetic Joy class.
Yes, yeah.
Big recommendations for that one.
Exactly. And we have the Hermetic Joy class happening in September. And actually, it's open to all adepts. So this is not going to happen on a regular basis. But for those people that have been initiated, you can study with a lineage holder. So you get to study with a lineage holder. You're going to have the keys handed down to you to help you, with the joy. And it's a fantastic class, amazing class. I probably think it's one of the all-time. I was just blown away. I was like, okay, this is life-changing. This is stuff that everybody needs. And normally when you study with a lineage holder, you probably have to be an RM and above. Yeah. So this is a very rare opportunity. And I don't know if it will happen again. We don't know.
The concepts are really, really amazing and are going to help you to understand joy and development and growth in a whole other way. I can't recommend it enough.
Yeah. So, email us and we will, send you the link or visit the calendar and you can see it on there. So thank you so much, Al. Thank you. And thank you everybody for tuning in. I know Alina's asked a question, what's the price for the mystery school? But Alina, if you could email, and I will let you know lots of different options, because there's so many different options for you to start, and depending on where you are in the world and all the rest of it. So we will happily share that with you. Take care for now, everybody. And
happy Gemini season.
And see you all again next time.
Bye.